Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. It's great to see your faces right now. I love seeing everyone's faces on a Friday. And by faces, I mean not seeing your faces because you're out there in the world of technology listening. But yeah. I'm glad that
we know you're there.
I know you're there. We know you're there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get to see you, Satya, and I get to see you, Nate.
That's right.
Hi, everyone. Okay, we're back with another AMA. We had a lot of success with the last AMA. We got into some great topics. The feedback was wonderful. And now, what? You didn't think the feedback was very good?
I did think it was wonderful.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was great. And so now we're going to do it again. We're going to kind of maybe, gear towards some training-related topics, or we'll just keep it broad. We don't know. We don't know where this is going to go.
We just know that Marcus gets a lot of questions all the time.
Right. We get a lot of questions, and as much as I would love to be able to answer them all every single day on social media, I probably spend about 90 minutes a day or more answering questions and messages. So, I know I could do more. There is more hours in the day, but I feel like that might be my limit. So this is another forum that we can answer questions. Okay, mm-hmm. That's where I was going with that. I'm not looking for applause or anybody to pat me on the back for that. I'm just saying. Let's go.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I want to cover more training questions because we did some nutrition and lifestyle in the last one. So yeah, let's get into a little bit more training.
Injury.
Yep. Injury. All right. Any tips for getting better at auto-regulating your training?
Yes. Okay, well, let's first talk about auto-regulating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the ability of, an organism to, self-check, self-correct. This is, there's a feedback loop that tells me, I do something, feedback loop, I need to do it harder, I need to do it softer, I need to do it easier, lighter, right? There's tons of auto-regulation systems in the animal kingdom. All types of different processes happen in our bodies where it's like, hey, the salt concentration got a little too high, so now we're going to do this feedback loop, auto-regulate, and we're going to change some sodium potassium channels and different, we're going to retain more water in the kidneys, and it's going to change our blah, blah, blah. Auto-regulation as it relates to training is like go into the gym and know how hard to push to get the result. Do I need to push more? Do I need to push less? What's the best thing? Where am I supposed to be at on a given day? And I think that this is the goal of the thinking athlete in functional bodybuilding, is to learn enough about training, learn enough about your body so that you can show up on any given day and feel confident that you're going to go in and be able to get a great response, training response, not overdo it, not wake up the next day and be like, whoa, I just set myself back. And also wake up the next day and be like, I didn't push hard enough. You don't want to be in that boat either. So this is where, what are the tips to auto-regulate? All right. Well, now that that's said, I don't know what the answer. No, I'm kidding. No, I think an anchoring kind of concept to this discussion is understanding your rate of perceived exertion or your effort level when you're in the gym. And effort is kind of I think it's probably the best tool we have to guide your training experience. Should you be just trying to hit the reps? Should you be going into the gym and always hitting the percentages that your coach prescribes? Should you be going in and trying to get the fastest time possible? These are different ways of measuring progress or measuring outcomes in the gym. But the ones that I just mentioned, hitting percentages, trying to get as fast as possible, always maxing out the reps, those don't factor in how you are feeling on a particular day.
Right.
And it's not just about feeling, because I know feelings are very subjective. It's that's not necessarily a physical metric. it's more, it's not when I say feeling, I mean more like, what's the state of your nervous system when you show up at the gym? Your brain, your nervous system, this like, you know, the electrical foundation of your body has sort of like a, you know, a recovery score each day, and we can try and measure it, but you know your body pretty well. If you just take a minute to tune in, you'll feel like, I don't have a lot of pep, or I do have a lot of pep. You know, back in the day when I was competing to win in the CrossFit world, the games, you know, if I showed up and I wasn't feeling a lot of pep, didn't matter. I had to get after it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a lot of like leeway to like take breaks, you know, and we weren't auto-regulating that much. We were just going hard because there was only so many days in a year to get better before the next competition. But if you're living, you know, to try and win the long game, or you don't want to like have your lifestyle so disrupted from being overtrained or hurting yourself, and there's really nothing that of consequence that would warrant you pushing yourself to like, you know, extremes. The average person, the average member of Persist, functional bodybuilding customer, then you want to be able to tune into what that nervous system score is and how it's feeling. And if you're like kind of, if you're not peppy or you're extra peppy, you know, you want to be able to tune into that. Now on a not peppy day, you go and load up 135 pounds and you do a back squat and you're like, whoa, that was like a 9 out of 10. But on a peppy day, you go load up 135 pounds and it feels like a 6 or 7 out of 10. And so you, just based upon you and how you feel and your own feelings, you can decide, hey, that was a 10 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, a 7 out of, like, you can kind of create your own scale. That's rate of perceived exertion or effort level. And autoregulation takes all of those factors I talked about, all that nervous system jargon, and it basically says, give yourself a score. Go into the gym. Your goal is to work at an 8 out of 10 most days. That's what we're shooting for. Maybe your last set on any weight training set could be a 9 out of 10. Save the 10 out of 10 for another time. And if you're having a low day, then you're going to get to 8 out of 10 pretty quickly. If you're having a really good peppy day, you're going to get to 8 out of 10 after an extra warm-up set or an extra working set. And that can be how you auto-regulate. So if the workout calls for, 5 rounds of kettlebell swings with 53, deadlifts with 185, and box jumps at 30 inches, and you go and do a couple reps of each, and you're like, shit, that felt like a 10. Guess what? To auto-regulate yourself for that day, you need to scale back. You're not going to hit the RX weights. You're going to go back down to a 35-pound kettlebell, a 125-pound deadlift, and you're going to do a short box. And that's how I approach every single day in the gym. I'm not really worried about percentages. I'm not really worried about, I just want to get that 8 out of 10 stimulus. And I know I'm in a good groove when 5, 6, 10 days in a row, I'm feeling the pep. Right? Mm-hmm. That's because I've taken care of myself outside the gym. I can come and I can be hitting more prescribed workouts. So you shouldn't feel down that you had to scale back. It should just be a sign. That's auto-regulation. That's learning. That's good. That's growth. That's the thinking athlete. But if you have to auto-regulate 10 days out of 10, then we teach you with functional bodybuilding and with our systems and with our methods that hey, that's not right. That's not how you should feel. Something's up. You're not sleeping. You're eating like crap. You're not hydrated. You're stressed out about work. Your relationship's in the tank right now. It was daylight savings and you're not in a good spot. So anyway, I said my piece.
Okay. I want to add a couple things.
I see you. You're ready.
I'm ready to jump in. I think that with auto-regulation, you need to be able to identify what's important to you. And that goes for within training, within your particular training session that day, and within your day and life overall. So what I mean by that is that I'm just thinking of my workout today as an example. I knew that if I did the entire workout as written, it was going to take me close to 2 hours and I was going to feel rushed and stressed, and I didn't have that kind of time today. So I knew that I was going to have to pick and choose a couple things. I kind of checked in with my energy and I was feeling pretty good, but I decided to like skip a warm-up set, only do 2 instead of 3 sets of like my pre-fatigue, prep thing, and then push it on the Olympic lifting because that's the piece that I knew was most important to me. I got to my conditioning, it was a 75% effort, and I'm looking at that and I know that I don't need to go super heavy. I know the point of that is just to move and feel good. And so I don't need to like go nuts there. And so it's about, for me, taking into consideration all of the factors of what do I really want to get out of this training session today that's going to make me feel like this was a real successful use of my time and my effort. And then also keeping the rest of my day in balance so that I don't go too hard and not be able to come and do this podcast or do the work that I have later on.
That's so cool. I love that you added that. And I think I could have answered it the same way. Like there's a lot of factors that go into autoregulation. And actually, as I heard you saying that, and then I'm thinking about what I said, I'm like putting myself in the shoes of the listener, and maybe somebody's thinking like, well, geez, it's a lot to freaking think about. Like, can't I just show up and just do it?
Yeah.
And somebody wrote to me the other day. They're like, I forget the exact question, but it was like, like I'm having a hard time with this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, did you think it was going to be easy? They were like, I'm having a hard time putting on muscle. I'm like, yeah, well, that's okay, because gaining muscle is really hard. Training and getting the best response from training, you can go to a group class and you can knock it out of the park, and then you can go to 10 more group classes and it can feel kind of, and 1 out of 10, like, is that what you're striving for? Do you want to go in every day and 10 out of 10 get the best feeling possible? Well, you know yourself better than anybody else. So if you learn a little bit and you figure out how to auto-regulate, then you get to go and have 10 out of 10 awesome gym experiences. And I was just talking to a family member a couple weekends ago, last weekend, and they were telling me about their experience at the group fitness gym. And they were like, just, some days I love it, and then other days I don't. And they were just like, they tell me the same old story I've heard 1,000 times about group fitness. Some days it's awesome. Other days it sucks. The programming sucks. Something's wrong with this. That's that. It's like there's just all these reasons why I was wrong. Like they don't do enough weights. Like they don't, I don't know. The cardio just doesn't feel like I'm like, it's because you went and you just said, do my fitness for me.
Yeah.
You didn't take control of it. You didn't show up, like, and I get it. Like a lot of people maybe just don't want to bring that level of energy and thought to their training and to their fitness experience. And they're going to keep searching for somebody else that's going to like do it for them and get it right every time.
Yeah.
And that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
It doesn't exist. And so you can go to Barry's, you can go to, you go to Soul Cycle, you can go to this class, you can go to F45, you can hit a CrossFit class, you can go to the body pump. Like you'll just keep going around the circle looking for somebody who's going to get it right every time, and it won't happen.
Yeah.
But if you want, you can take some time to learn it, and you can start to get it right 90% of the time, 95% of the time, and then eventually 100% of the time. And you can have full control over what your outcomes are with guidance from, a company like ours, or, enough guidance about what to choose from, but then how to choose the right thing for you. Yeah.
It's a really powerful skill. It's kind of like being able to cook, and you can
exactly
take control of your situation.
Yeah. It's like I can't get, like, I feel like I'm just like, my diet's all off. Like,
there's not good choices on the menu.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Like, well, it's because you're eating off these menus. There is only 10 choices, One of them might be really great for you, but then tomorrow's a different day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good question.
Okay. This one is particular to our Persist program, but I think that it could also be relevant for a lot of people who want to blend an endurance sport like running and something more like strength training. Their question was, do you have any tips for combining persist with running?
Oh, great. Well, I wish we had Andrew here to kind of give his input on this, but Andrew's one of our FBB coaches who's been spending the last couple of years training for marathons, and also, you know, obviously doing a lot of functional bodybuilding training in the gym. When you're dedicated to a sport, then you need to, and you want to perform well in that sport, you need to play the sport and practice the sport regularly, right? So if the sport is running, then playing and practicing means running. And so, you know, I think once upon a time, I remember people like read like, oh, if I do CrossFit, I'm going to get better at, you know, it'll help my running.
Yeah.
And so they just did CrossFit for like 6 months, and then they like went and ran like a 5K trail race or something like that. And they're like, dude, I suck at running. Like, CrossFit didn't help my running. I'm like, well, did you run in the last 6 months? They're like, no. I'm like, well, yeah, you kind of lost the, you know, skill. Like, you got to keep running. So if combined correctly, it can, any type of strength and conditioning has the potential to support another sport. But the key is like, you know, if you're going to go and, let's take a sport like swimming, okay, where, you know, a big part of being like a very good swimmer is, you know, having great, you know, swimming mechanics, stroke, aerodynamic, flexibility in your shoulders is extremely important. There's a certain like position that you actually really like, depending on your stroke, that you use your legs in. So if we want to get like really like focused on how do we train a swimmer, an elite swimmer who does backstroke, for example, like how do we get them, you know, best prepared for their sport in the gym? You know, we might choose certain exercises. We might, you know, have a particular set of things that we want to work with them on that's highly specific to their discipline. That might be different than somebody who's a rugby player. So you can get very specialized and very specific, or you can, if depending on where you're at in your, you know, sports journey and commitment, you know, it might not be as important to you to be that specific. You're like, I'm a competitive, more like a recreational competitive runner. Like you know, I'm not trying to like break the 2.5 hour mark on the marathon. I'm more just like, I want to like feel good and finish strong, you know? So, depending on that, you might get more and more specialized. But if we think about, you know, an endurance sport or like a runner, then, you know, some of the characteristics of that sport would be having good muscle endurance and really like positional strength. Right? You need to be strong in positions that you're going to sustain for potentially hours, you know, so you're going to be kind of upright, slightly pitched forward. So there's going to be this like kind of consistent, constant stress and tension on your posterior chain. You know, obviously your hips are going to be working a lot. Your hip flexors are going to be working a lot. Your lower legs are going to get a lot of impact. You want to build up tendon strength. You want to build up structural balance and strength in your lower body. And then actually you really want to have good posture in your upper back, so that you're not, you know, losing energy through slouching or slumping forward. So all of those things, you know, like would be the things I would consider. And I would say that, you know, the program of ours that in Persist, or the training track that most like best complements that, is something that's going to build, you know, resistance, a lot of resistance training, a lot of structural balance and strength work, which is more like our pump pump program, formerly called Body Comp, and just to maybe a lesser degree would be like our Pillars program, which has sort of like an overall you know, athletic approach to functional bodybuilding and the look good, move well sort of training approach. But the reason I bias towards pump is that most of your conditioning and most of your, energy system training is going to be specific to your sport. So you're going to be spending all this time running. That the work that you do in the gym, I think, is probably best focused on strength and structural balance work, which is resistance training, and less on like, you don't need to go do hardcore WODs. You don't need to go do like super tough conditioning work in the gym. A little bit of that would be useful. A little bit of that to build some like, maybe more power or like higher threshold aerobic power. But for the vast majority of your conditioning work, you should just do it in your sport that is like running or biking or whatever.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there were a number of questions along this theme, so I thought we could get into it a little bit.
Okay.
Which is, how do you monetize your fitness journey? How do you turn your fitness practice into a business?
There's a lot of ways people do it.
Yeah, I have many thoughts.
Let's hear your thoughts. I mean, how do you do it, Satya?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is to decide what your angle is. I don't recommend becoming just a fitness influencer. I think that you need something where you need to provide value in coaching, whether that's nutrition coaching or fitness coaching. I don't recommend becoming a CrossFit coach professionally, because that's probably not going to be that lucrative. So if you want to make your own fitness business, I think that you need to identify something that you can really help people with, and you need to be flexible, because your initial idea going into business mode might take some iterations to really become successful. And so I think it's a mistake when people are turning something into a business and they go in with the mindset that they have to have their idea perfectly nailed down and figured out, because I think that you need to be able to test it and adapt and find what your sweet spot is a little bit. So you can know that you want to go into coaching or writing programs for people. But I think that my advice to someone just starting out is to try to narrow down to something that you know that you can be really specific about, because there's a lot of power in specificity, and that's going to help you stand out from a very competitive landscape where someone who is just a general fitness coach and they're like, yeah, I coach anybody, is a lot different from someone who's like, I only coach postpartum moms and I'm nailing that every single time, and I know all of the things that they struggle with. So that's my initial direction.
I like it. I wouldn't say anything that different. I'm curious because the question I think was phrased as like, how do you turn your sport into a business? Wasn't that it?
It's like there were a number of questions on how to monetize fitness.
I got you.
Like how to start a fitness business.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it doesn't change really the answer. I think it's. I talk to people that ask me this question, coaches that I mentor over the years, and I'm just like, I think you got to just sort of. It's not. You don't. At this point, I don't believe it's a wise decision to start, like you said, a fitness business. It's more appropriate to go out and help people solve problems and just and figure out, well, what's the problem that I know how to help people solve, and just go do that. Just go provide a ton of value. And don't expect anything in return at first. Like it's okay to do things for free when you don't have an audience and your time is really not valuable yet. So just help a lot of people, and get really good at helping them. And, I met this kid 2 years ago who was funny. I met him at this, it was kind of a weird meetup thing that Lululemon put on.
All right.
They brought influential people from different disciplines and, careers and stuff. I met him and I was like, oh my God, I know you. I've seen you on Instagram. And I think his name was goalkeeper training, something like that. He was he's a goalkeeper, and he put out these awesome goalkeeper training videos all the time. And I remember watching him because I was a goalkeeper in 2000, from like basically 2002 to 2006 in college. So almost 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And, you know, fast forward like 15 years and I'm like, damn, like this is goalkeeping training on steroids compared to what I used to do. And it's like using great science, great like strength conditioning, just great principles. And I'm like, and he was just putting out these killer videos and he had a good following, and turns out he like did that for a while and then designed a goalkeeper glove that he sold. And he sold a lot of goalkeeper gloves, but he had this like these great drills and this great education that he was providing to people that was filmed in a way that was compelling. And it was just, you know, he was a great athlete. And I was like, okay, that's how you do it. Like he solved a problem that people had. It was like, this is the modern day goalkeeper. I think that's actually what it was called, modern day goalkeeper or something. It was like, this is the modern day goalkeeper. Like we don't train like we did 20 years ago. Like we do this now and it's effective, and this is how you get better. And there's a lot of goalies out there in the world, you know. I mean, there's not a billion of them, but there's enough that are wanting to be, you know, led and taught. And then once they're bought in, then you find a way to monetize it, you know. And once you command an audience and once you're providing a lot of value, then when the time comes to ask for them to pay for something, you just be confident in that and you provide something that's also a value too. And I see that in like a lot of other people, you know, just I watch what they're doing, and you guys will hear me come to the gym and I'm like, hey, I'm super into this blank person on Instagram. Right. And you're like, it's kind of that. And I'm like, but then I'll go into it. I'm like, but listen, like this is what they're doing to provide value. Like this is what I see. They're doing amazing. They're doing it better than anybody. Like they're just nailing it. Like I'm happy to talk about the clickbait person that's just got a really like, you know, whoa, there's sort of a wow factor. But I won't talk about that person for more than a day or two unless there's something there. And then if I'm still talking about it after 3-4 weeks, it's like, okay, there's something unique here. And then eventually you look and you're like, oh, and they also have some way of monetizing it on the side. But they're not selling the thing that hooked me in. That was like, that's helping my life today. Right. They're selling something else. The thing that's changing my life, they're giving it to me for free every day. And it's like guiding me to something better. And that's, I think, what is probably, you know, it would anchor any industry, any business that is trying to, you know, monetize it through like the internet, which I think is probably where this is, you know, this question stems from. Like, how do I turn, you know, coaching and sport on Instagram into a business? But anyway, I think that we beat that one down. That was good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say one more thing, which is that you do have to know how to market yourself, or you have to have someone in your life that can help you with that, a service or a good person in your life. It's not easy. So, and the way that we do that is by providing as much value as we can. So that's always very central to our philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also easy to like see that there's 10 different ways people you follow are marketing themselves. Yeah. And be like, oh, I should do all 10 of those things. And I make that mistake sometimes. It's like, okay, what can you focus on? Just
get good at one.
Get good at one, and then get good at 2, and then 3, and then 10.
Yeah. I want to get good at them all.
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
It just takes time.
Yep. Okay. Let's find one last really good one.
Oh, let's get this.
Okay. It's going to take me a minute because people have so many questions. As I'm sitting here with your phone, it's just blowing up nonstop.
With comments or something?
With like, comments,
DMs. Right. Those notifications, they be coming in the reg.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, I have the app closed most of the time, so I'm not really getting hit up with all the, but I did turn it on, you know, the never auto lock. So the phone's just on this whole time.
Okay. All right. How do you deal with days you feel like not training or when you're feeling down?
They're few and far between. Training to me is not something that happens when you feel good. It happens just as part of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I don't know why this example just came to mind, but it's like, I got to take a crap. I don't really feel like going. Like, I just don't feel like going to the bathroom and taking the shit. Well, it's coming out. It's got to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sorry for that visual, but you know, it's like there's things that they just happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The goal is to move training into that category of your life. Movement is just, you do it. You want to set yourself up for as many days as possible where you feel great going and doing it, because it's better.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel great, it's still happening. And I don't think that it should feel great every time.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be easy every time to go to the gym. I don't think it should be seamless to just stop doing the other thing that was important in your day to go and work out on a regular basis. I do believe this is hard. It's hard. It should be hard. Expect it to be hard. And on the days where it's hard, that is your best chance at becoming a more resilient, hardened, capable human. We talked about in the last podcast about some, you know, I brought up like the evolutionary, you know, biology a little bit about our DNA. I do think we're like meant to struggle in life.
Yeah.
Like physical struggle. We all are there's a lot of emotional, mental, spiritual struggle that happens as a result of our modern world being so different than our, you know, ancestral worlds, like, or just like from what, like, we don't get enough sunlight, we sit at chairs, we're indoors, we're not connected to the earth, like, we don't really get to relate to people, we're just on phones all day and technology, like, that's messing with people's emotions, their psyche, their spiritual, you know, presence on this earth, their purpose. The physical part too gets affected by that, but then there's also like just the sedentary nature of what we do. It's like we're not out there struggling with anything. You know, a lot of people I meet like talk about like, I went on a hike, I went backpack, I did something outdoors, like happens once a year they get to do this thing, and they're like, it was so hard, I did the thing and I went up the mountain and it was like, you know, and that they don't talk about it like it was the worst thing that ever happened, and they like talk about it fondly, like, I did that thing. We were freaking designed to do that. Like, not designed, like that was a Monday.
Yeah.
You know, for most of the history of the human species. Now nobody's out struggling. Like, no one's out like, oh God, I woke up today and it was wet and cold and I like came out of my, you know, cave and I was just drenched, and we had to hike up the mountain and we had to get the thing. Like we had to go fetch the water that was 3 miles away. Like, nobody's doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And so here's your chance. I'm not feeling motivated to go to the gym. Okay. You got to go get water for your family. It's far away. Like, and people might be like, oh, that's crazy, dude. We live in a freaking modern world. Like, we're not stressed out like that. It's like, you're right. And as a result of not being stressed out, we're all getting a little more sick. We're all a little less capable. We're all a lot softer in a way that's not just about being like, it's not like machismo, masculine, like gotta be tough. And it's like, no, that there's a balance to all this. We're way unbalanced, like with just everything's supposed to be easy. It's like, no, it's not. So to answer the question, on days like that, I'm like, ooh, this is my chance to go do something. Like, I don't want to do this, but actually when I do it, because it's going to happen, I'm going to feel a huge lift that's going to carry me for days, maybe weeks. Whereas if I come to the gym and I'm feeling great and I hit a good workout, like, I'm forgetting about it. But on a day where I was like, dude, I got through that. Like, I did not want to do my morning cardio, but I got it done, and hell yeah. Like, I did that on a hard day. Mm-hmm. You know, oh my gosh, I was craving eating that thing last night. It was late. I didn't need it. I made that. It was hard. It was a sacrifice. It felt like I didn't do it though. And I woke up today and I feel like, damn, I can handle something else that's hard. So it's just understanding that the hardness is not like unusual. It's not like something to be afraid of. It's not something to be like, it's like, yes, that's part of it.
Yeah. Wow. You said that so perfectly. I have nothing to add.
But your head nods and your eye contact made it happen for me.
Many head nods throughout this podcast as a whole.
Oh man. Well, Nate, make sure you clip that one out. Put that one right on the gram. Mm-hmm. Let's get that one up there. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that was good.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you for a great conversation. Thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. Next time we have an AMA on Instagram, social media, be sure to drop your questions in there because they will be coming to the podcast near you.
Yep.
Take care.
See ya.